Hello, Tom Green, Democrat page. Today, my name is Mark Ornelas, and here we are with Police Chief Candidate Chris Cimino. It's Cimino, correct?
Cimino.
Cimino?
Cimino.
Cimino? Mm-hmm. Okay, my apologies.
Nobody gets it right, man.
Well, would you like to give us an introduction to yourself and your background?
Sure. My name is Chris Cimino. I grew up in Ohio and then moved to Big Spring, Texas, where I spent most of my formative years. Graduated Big Spring High School, went to the Marine Corps directly after. It was like a week after. As soon as I graduated, I handed my recruiter my graduation certificate, and he's like, "All right, see you in a week." And then off we went. Did 4 years in the Marine Corps, got out, went to Texas Tech University, got a degree in anthropology with a major in archaeology. So did that, got out of college. Didn't really want to be, I wanted to be an archaeologist, but it didn't pay enough, you know what I mean?
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's a shame.
It is, because it's really interesting.
I've really wanted to try to get into something like that myself.
Oh, if you get a chance, it's a lot of fun. So I mostly went with the Mayans, Aztecs, the Mesoamerican cultures, and that was my field of study. Enjoyed it, but it didn't pay enough. And I didn't really want to, be newly married and traveling all over the world, digging up stuff and leaving my wife at home. So became a electrician with Soha Electric here in town. Did that for a little bit and decided, you know what, let's just go be a police officer. So been doing that ever since.
Alrighty. Well, as a candidate for the police chief and with the amount of time you spent in the force, what are the biggest hurdles that you see within the department itself, and how do you seek to address them?
Well, discipline, chain of command, just basic knowledge for the everyday officer. There's a lot of hurdles we need to deal with internally. Externally, we've been doing pretty well, but when you lose focus of what you are, you've heard the saying, "Doctor, heal thyself."
Doctor, heal thyself?
Yeah,
no, I don't believe so.
It's like a doctor should be able to treat his own injuries.
Oh, okay.
So, we're not looking at our own injuries. We're not looking internally. We're focused externally so much, we've lost sight of what we are, and we have no sense of ourselves anymore. So, a lot of internal stuff needs to be fixed.
I have seen that there has been a massive problem with manpower to speak with the internal issues, especially all over West Texas. It's been a big epidemic, yes. How do you seek to try to address the shortage of manpower? Okay,
well, one of the things that we're doing with is with the pay raises and making sure everybody's getting a fair wage. Another thing is making sure that everybody's treated equally. No more good old boy system. A lot of the officers who have left haven't left because of the pay. It's because they're not being treated properly. One of the ones, and I'm not going to mention his name, left because there was no opportunity for growth. As it is now, once an officer goes to CID or narcotics or another specialized division, they're there for their life unless they leave of their own free will or they mess up bad enough to get removed, which rarely happens. But if there's no opportunity for growth, why would you stick around?
Yeah, I can definitely see lots of issues with that. With a few questions there with what you were saying, the good old boy system. I'm not really aware of that. What is that?
It's when it's not what you know, it's who you know. So let's say you and I are friends, right?
Yeah.
And you work for me, or we work together. And I say, you know what? This is my buddy. I want to put him in a position where I think he can just really do good things. Even though you're not qualified for the position, they're going to stick you there anyway. Because, hey, Lieutenant Cimino says this guy's the guy to go to. That's the good old boy system. Even though somebody's more qualified than you. Somebody might have a master's degree or, 24 hours of training in a certain aspect of law enforcement. But because you and I are friends, you're going to go to that position over the person that's actually qualified for the position. That's the good old boy system, and it's rife.
That does sound like a massive issue. What you were saying with the lifetime appointments, I did see that, and I thought that was certainly a bit of an oddity, especially whenever it comes to how technology progresses and how some people might not adapt to new ways. Has that been a bit of an issue with the current lifetime appointees?
With technology, not so much, but some people are just, their butt is custom fit for that chair that they're sitting in, you know what I mean? You get up there, you stagnate, and the world blows by you, and you forget how to be a cop.
How do you seek to, another thing with officers, big cities poach them off a lot. How do you seek to try to compete with the bigger cities, especially since they're able to compete with higher budgets and more pay and a lot better, I wouldn't say work environments, but mostly just not working constant 12-hour wages immediately and things like that, time for the officers to rest?
Well, I don't know if it's the shifts, because the officers really like the 12-hour shifts, because you work 3 to 4 days a week, and then you're off 3 to 4 days. So you get a lot more time with your family under 12 hours on the 12-hour shift configuration. The officers don't want to. The majority of the officers don't want to leave it. But how could we compete with bigger cities? Well, we're not going to do it financially. That's for sure. We don't have the budget. The quality of life here in San Angelo is a little bit slower. We have more natural things you can do, like you want to go to the park, you want to go hunting, fishing, all the natural things we have here, you're not going to find in Dallas-Fort Worth or, San Antonio or El Paso or even Austin, really. We have a lot to offer, but it's going to take what that officer wants, or what that individual who wants to be an officer here wants. So if we could say, hey, look, we have all these things to offer, but we're not going to be able to pay you as much. It's just the way it is. We're not going to be able to just miracle money out of nowhere. It comes from somewhere, and it comes from the taxpayers. And I'm not going to advocate for a tax hike just to pay, more officers.
How would you deal with hiking prices, like for rent and other things that would happen for the quality of life for the officers?
Right.
Because, well, actually, no, go ahead. My bad.
We have no say over what the price is over for any commodity is. There's really nothing we can do about that.
No, the next thing for internal issues with the police department, how would you deal with officers overstepping their boundaries and other things like that in your administration if you were elected?
Okay, are you talking about officers who are violating people's civil rights?
Yes.
Bye.
Ship them straight out.
There's no reason for us to deal with that. I mean, an officer they can take away your freedoms, right?
Yes.
So should they be doing it under the color of law by what the law says? Absolutely. If they can't follow the laws that they're supposed to be enforcing, they don't need to be cops. Simple as that.
So you would actively work with the reforms that have been being pushed by the state right now for active reporting for across county lines and other jurisdictions?
It needs to be statewide reporting.
How would you approach relationships with the community? I'm not most aware of how things are currently with all the different communities in San Angelo with people in the north and the south. How do you go with building a closeness with the community?
So an interesting thing about the police officers is we are the community. We've got officers living all over town, north side, east side, west side, south side. I live in the barrio. We are the community. And one thing I would like to do is every 3 to 6 months have citizens from each side of town come inside and just talk. No official board or anything, and have it rotating. Make sure everybody gets to have a say. Come in. What issues are you seeing on your side of town? What kind of issues are you dealing with? And then ask them, hey, what do you think would work? And actually use their input to do something about it. Just having the citizens come in and actually talk with us, let us know what they're seeing on their side of the city, and actually give us what they think needs to happen.
Okay.
And then actually work with them and say, hey, we're going to try your ideas too. I mean, this is a partnership between us and the public. We can't do it on our own.
Right. So I guess trying to increase the lines of communication and stuff.
Yeah,
So
I mean, the chief right now has an open door policy. If you want to go talk to him today, you can walk in there, talk to Charla, say, hey, I'd like to talk to Frank.
Yeah.
You're going to talk to Frank?
Yeah. Well, that's good. So you would maintain that going forward?
Yeah, open door policy is awesome. I mean, he's an elected official. The chief
Right.
is an elected position.
Right.
And if you elect somebody, you should sure as heck be able to go in there and say, hey, I got a problem. This is what it is. Now, you're not always going to go, straight up to the boss. You may go through one of the assistant chiefs or a lieutenant, but you're going to see somebody.
Okay. So I guess that kind of goes into another big thing that's been popping up a lot with this current election is transparency. So I've heard a lot of talk, but not exactly specific. So if you want to get into the specifics of how you would try to make the department more transparent, if that's an issue you see that needs to be done, how would you do it?
Okay, so crime stats is one of the things that everybody's like, the crime stats are down 48%. No, they're not. You can take any number you want and manipulate it. I mean,
you can play with per capita or
and if you go by the UCR stats and all the stuff from DPS.
What's a UCR stats?
It's Uniform Crime Reporting. It's the stuff that goes to the FBI. It goes to the
okay, that's the national one.
Right, and the thing is, no, there's no federal law that says an agency has to report anything. There's plenty that don't. But if you do report it, it has to be accurate.
Okay.
There's been lawsuits over that in the past.
Okay.
Of manipulating crime stats to make yourself look better.
Do you think there's a problem with that here locally, or no?
Intentionally, no. Unintentionally, yes.
So you think maybe would there need to be more training in order to deal with those issues?
No,
or?
it's the commanders that need to actually put their foot down and say, hey, this is what the crime was reported as. That's what it is until we can prove otherwise. Instead of, write that up as an information report, even though it's an aggravated sexual assault.
So it's more of a cultural change you would need to be seen within the department.
Cultural and training and the commanders getting off their butts and doing their damn job.
Okay.
Pardon me, I don't know if I can say that, but I did.
It's YouTube. There's worse on there.
Okay.
So. Cool. So another thing that I think he talked a little bit about the TCOL has implemented several reforms. For people out there that don't know, that's the Texas Commission on Law Enforcement, which I believe is the state agency for regulating law enforcement. And last year a bill went into effect that has to do with creating standardized personnel and misconduct reports that go to the state, and then even creating a public database of officers and their licensing status. So do you see that being a benefit? So not only for transparency overall, but we want to make sure we don't get bad officers that are coming from other communities.
That's a great idea. I want people to know, hey, Lieutenant Cimino, his license, he's a Master Peace Officer, has been for, I think since 2014.
Yeah, long time.
His license is a good standing. This is his training record. This is the stuff that he knows. So if he says he doesn't know this stuff, well, he's lying to you.
Yeah.
So yeah, transparency, accountability, 100%. We need more of it.
Cool.
Some of the stuff that TCOL is looking at reforming, I don't really agree with. I like us having our own academy. And one of the things they're trying to do is make state academies. Like, we hire somebody, they go to academy in Midland now, or Odessa, or Houston.
I've heard New Mexico similar, where they have one academy for every single police department, rather than you can have a local one that's a bit more specialized to your area, because you have people in the area training the officers.
Right, but I like us training the officers the way we need them for our community.
Okay.
Because we're not Houston. We're not San Antonio. We're not Austin.
Not at all.
We're not even Abilene, and they're probably aren't the closest, but they do things that are strange. So, no, I'd like to keep our regional academy. I like having our officers know what's important to the citizens here.
Okay.
So,
make that community connection there.
Yes, sir.
Cool. Alrighty. So, another bill that is currently held up in the courts, I'm sure you've heard of it, Senate Bill 4, that has to do with peace officers being able to arrest someone they suspect of being in the country illegally.
Right.
And I know it's not your job to choose which laws you enforce. I know it's tied up in the courts right now, but I've had concerns expressed to me directly from people I know that they almost feel like they have to carry their passport or their papers going into Walgreens and something, or they're going to get arrested just because, the color of their skin. So I'm curious, if that bill went into effect, how would you try to approach it to make sure that, people feel safe within their own community, that the police are not just coming after them?
Oh, well, you can tell that I'm wearing a Cuban shirt today, so no, this isn't Nazi Germany. I do not need to see your papers.
Right.
No, if somebody is suspected of a crime, like let's say you commit a theft, I have to come find you.
Right.
We talk. I find out you're in this nation illegally. That's fine. But just walking up to somebody on the street because they have, a certain melatonin count, no, that's not cool.
Cool. All right, and you need probable cause and everything else.
Yeah, 51%. I mean, that's what you need for probable cause, right?
Right.
So if you don't have probable cause, you're done, man.
Okay. Very cool. Moving on to just crime in general in San Angelo, what do you consider, if you were chief, what would be your enforcement priorities? Where are the areas you're seeing the most pain and the most harm being caused that you would want to focus on and deploy your officers to handle the most?
Okay. A lot of this, almost all crime stems from drugs, from people being unable to contain their baser instincts. They all want that endorphin pop. They want to feel good. And, with the way things are today, a lot of people just don't feel good. They don't. What I'd like to do is really beef up our anti-crime unit, give them the actual power to run warrants and do the things that they need to do that they haven't been empowered to do.
Can they not do that right now?
No, they have to rely on CID or narcotics to actually write the warrant. The thing is, the guys that are in the anti-crime unit are highly intelligent, highly motivated, and probably some of the best officers we have in the department, hands down. I'd like to actually empower them to do more than just, we're going to go find somebody with warrants. Well, no, how about you go find the drug dealers?
So that almost sounds like there might be a bureaucratic problem within the department. Is that something you see or not really?
It's trust issues.
Okay.
It's hard to explain without actually living it, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I understand.
It's not that they don't trust the officers, it's that they want to keep things compartmentalized. Only these people are special enough to
do this
to write a warrant. And dude, anybody can write a warrant. You could write one. You could write it on a cocktail napkin, turn it into the judge, and if he says, you're good to go, and signs off on it,
Yeah, that's the
you're good to
important
go.
part is the judge is
Right, yeah,
verifying
they
and making
have
sure it's good.
oversight.
Right.
And we have great judges here in town for the most part. But I want to get away from the compartmentalization that we
Okay.
have here and really open it up and let the dogs off the chains.
Would you see potentially like cross-training, moving people in between departments or collaborating to help?
Absolutely. Right now, when you go to a specialized division, whether it's anti-crime, narcotics, or criminal investigations, you're there for your life or when you screw up and get kicked out or decide to leave on your own. What I'd like to do is actually rotate that every 3 to 4 years, depending on the division, have at least half of those, or 2 or 3 officers or detectives rotate out, get fresh blood in there.
Okay.
That does a lot of things. One, it helps retention because there's officers that are leaving because there's no mobility. You're stuck where you're stuck because somebody's butt is stuck in a seat that they're not going to give up.
And you see it's more than just we're a small, relatively speaking, a small city. You see it's just an issue in general that people can't move up.
What if you're stuck someplace? I mean, why would you stick around? If you really have a drive to be a detective and you're never going to get that chance because somebody's going to be up there for 20 plus years, taking up that spot, and you're never going to get that experience.
Complacent in their position.
Yeah, I mean, they go up there and they get custom fit to their chair and they never leave. But it does another thing. When that officer that was a detective, this is personal experience because I was a detective twice, knocks on your door, they can carry that call that you just made all the way through prosecution. They know every step along the way of what the district attorney or county attorney needs to successfully prosecute.
And that sounds like something you need to experience it and then learn
Right,
on the job.
you can't learn it in a book.
Right.
You need to actually experience it. And if you can't get that experience, you can't get that experience, so why stick around?
Yeah, so it definitely goes into the retention problems. Let's go ahead and jump right into discipline.
All right. So right now with discipline in the department, there really is no discipline. We have several officers that have been arrested for crimes like DWI.
I know DWIs have been in the news in the last couple of years. and
Yeah.
I know we had that issue at, I heard y'all talking about civil rights earlier. I know we had that issue at Walmart a couple of years ago that went viral where the man was arrested and that caused I think a 6-figure payout from the city or something.
Right.
So.
We need to be held accountable, and it needs to start at the shift level. Right now, the commanders and sergeants over the shifts really can't enforce discipline. We could write things up and send it up the chain of command, but if the chain of command decides, nah, you can't do that.
So it's
then
not
you can't
that,
do that.
it's not that there's not the will, it's just they don't have the teeth behind it.
Right. The commanders, the shift commanders and the sergeants, they're not getting the backing they need. And it's just been a problem since day one. Another thing that we're going to have to deal with soon is city policy. Chapter 4.09 goes over nepotism.
Okay.
Have you read it?
I have not.
Okay. Well, I got a copy for you.
Okay. The one I'm familiar with more is the Civil Service Commission, but I know it's a bit different.
Yeah. So under Chapter 4.09 of the city policy manual, the question comes back to discipline and the good old boy system and nepotism.
Nepotism, for people out there, that's basically people you know, relations or whatever, and they're using that relationship to get into a position that they probably wouldn't be qualified for, or could
Right.
even create a conflict of interest.
Exactly so.
Okay.
And it also deals with discipline because the chief of police is the backstop for all discipline within that department. Now, if you'll actually read the policy, you'll see that under that policy, you cannot be in any supervisory capacity over a relation as defined in the policy.
Such
Brother,
employment.
daughter, sister. So in the past, what has been done with Sergeant Walston and his son, Johnny Rodriguez and his wife, Randy Hernan and his brother, they were never allowed to work in the same division. So Johnny was a patrol sergeant, Irma was a detective until Sergeant Rodriguez retired, and then Irma came back to patrol. They wouldn't even let the Walstons work on the same side of the week. They're like, hey, Sergeant Walston, your son cannot be even on the same side of the week with you.
And so they were really strict about it at that time.
Well, it goes back to the good old boy system. Who are you? What's your last name? Right now, one of the candidates' brother works for him in CID, in his direct chain of command. So let's say one of the candidates gets elected. His daughter and his brother are going to be under his command. As the chief of police, you're in command of all sworn personnel.
Right, you are top of the pyramid over.
Right. I mean, if they mess up and they get in trouble, I don't expect it to happen again. But if they do, that discipline has to go all the way up to him to sign off on. How is that going to work?
So you're worried about undue influence.
Very much so. Because I've already seen it happen in the past.
So if you were a police chief, would your position would basically be to enforce the policy from the city
Right.
with no blinders on, no blind spots?
I don't care who you are, what your last name, who you're friends with, who you're related to. The policy is the policy and it was written for a reason.
Okay.
And I'm really interested to see what the city does with this. Let's see how deep the good old boy system goes.
Yeah.
Are they going to change it for somebody? Very interesting.
Who knows? All right, cool. Is there anything else you wanted to talk about, or?
No, I think we covered everything. Do you have any more questions? I mean, it could be
No.
completely off script.
That's well, I went through these so I wouldn't have to, but I guess one we can jump into is everyone knows we got like the homeless tent city thing that's going on off of North Bryan over there, and I know police are probably the first line that interacts with the homeless population here a lot.
Yes.
So is there any different approaches you would take, or anything you think needs to be done from a police officer perspective to maybe help or deal with the homeless community? Or
I think as a police department, we need to reach out to the organizations that actually deal with it, and they've been really good during the winter months. They bring bags and and blankets and stuff like that. As we see them walking around, we can hand it out to them on patrol. We see them, we handle it right there, and I'd really like that to continue.
Okay.
It's nice. I mean, you run into somebody that's homeless. They're out there shivering in the cold. You got a fleece blanket in the back with a little bag with snacks and hand warmers and stuff like that. You hand it to them. It's like, hey, it's not cold enough for the shelters to be open tonight, but here's this.
Yeah, I mean, someone that's shivering. I mean, we had a person that froze to death not that long ago. It sounded like. So, you would try to take advantage of all the nonprofits and the charities in the areas
Right.
and build those community relationships.
Right.
Cool.
Kind of help out how we can.
Yeah, that's a good idea. All right. Well, then, if you have any closing statements for Tom Green County Democrats or just San Angelo in general, that'll be your camera. So feel free to say your message.
I appreciate y'all giving me the chance to run for chief. It's been an interesting thing.
Interesting process.
It's been different. It's a lot more fun than I thought it would be. I wouldn't want to do it again. But make sure when you vote informed. Read up on everybody's platform. We all have websites available. Mine has a ton of information, a lot more than we can get into here today.
Yeah. What is your website for people
It's
out there?
www. Oh, we'll just show.
All right. I already know what it was, but for people that might be listening.
Yeah. There you go.
Cool.
You can just scan the QR code.
There you go. And we'll put it on the ending card too
Okay.
of the video.
No, just make sure you're voting informed. Make sure you know who and what you're actually voting for. Look at their website, see if they actually have solutions to problems or if they're just spouting off campaign slogans. Other than that, I appreciate your vote if you like what you see.
All right. Election is May 4th. Early voting, I believe, starts April 22nd.
Yes, sir.
And go out and vote, San Angelo. And thank you very much for coming to talk to us. I
You're very
really
welcome.
appreciate it. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
All right, that's it.